We'll give it a minute and start right at 8 o'clock, whether anybody's here or not.
Okay.
Yeah, some people are starting to flow in, I see. Okay, everybody, I have straight up 8 o'clock. We're going to get started on time and be done certainly within an hour, depending on how many comments and questions we have. First of all, just so you know, as a reminder, if you want to ask a question or you have a comment, you need to be logged in to your YouTube account to watch this, or into a Google Plus account. If you're watching on Arbiter or you're watching on my website, you won't be able to do that. Sorry, it's just the state of the technology. Couple of things, background. Some of you may have seen this already today. We got hit with massive game changes today. So I'm still in the process of changing assignments. Bear with me, please. I don't think I'll be finished until tomorrow. So you're going to need to keep checking back on Arbiter all week long to see what's going on. What basically happens is they eliminated the Johnson fields completely and moved all those games around, which completely jumbled the schedule. So some of you may find that you're getting additional assignments. Some of you may have lost assignments, and it's still a mess right now, and I'm still trying to get it all figured out. So please bear with me. The other thing that's going to happen, so don't be surprised and please don't get mad at me, is because we have so many games at Simplot that need referees, I am probably going to move a small handful of you on Saturday from the tournament over to Simplot. And we'll just see how that goes as the week progresses. So it is important that you stay on top of your schedule this week. Okay. I know a lot of you have already stepped up and picked up extra games, particularly those U10, U11, U12 ARs over at Nova. One of the other changes that has been made, unfortunately, is the 9v9 U11 and U12 fields at Nova are now going to be at Taconic. So if you had a back-to-back situation where you were on a U11, U12 game, and then you're going to do a U10 game or vice versa, that might not work now. Check your schedule, and if you have that situation, please send me an email, let me know so that I can start making adjustments. The other thing that's a very real possibility on the older games, older age games, is they now put some full-size fields at Nova. So it's entirely possible that you have back-to-back games, one game at Nova, one game at Taconic, or vice versa, and it won't work. The travel time won't work. The games are much too narrowly scheduled. We have a lot of games that we're on 90-minute time frames, and you've got 80-minute games plus halftime and everything else. It's an impossible situation. So if you have that on your schedule, again, please email me so that I have the opportunity this week to make the changes. Please continue to keep an eye on Arbiter. I will post whatever opening games we have, and I certainly appreciate, as the schedule changes throughout the week, that you get a hold of me and let me know what other games you can pick up, additional in some cases, or just a replacement for games that you may have lost. Okay, I think that's it for the preliminaries. Riley Jones is here. He will have the instruction a little bit later, but right now we're just going to go right to the. Okay, so again, welcome to the 2016 Performance Cup. John Jacobson, who's the assigner for Canyon Rim, which is the week after Performance Cup, has asked me to tell you that he's still looking for referees. He's sort of in a similar situation that I was. He has about half the referees that he needs for that tournament. So if you are interested in going down to Twin Falls for that tournament, the link here, I'll give you a little bit of time to copy this down. This is where you'll get all the information. I've also put a comment below the YouTube video so that you'll be able to get the link there. I will probably send out an email this week, if I remember, that'll give you this link as well. So the only thing I ask is if you do plan to go to Canyon Rim, that you block your arbiter for that weekend in the Swissra account so that you don't get assigned games in Boise. Happens every single time. We end up with, I get turnbacks, oh, I'm going to Canyon Rim. Well, I'm not going to be too happy, if you haven't blocked your account. So please make sure you take care of that. The tournament director for the Performance Cup is Nicole Frank. And she sent me a list of a couple of things that she wanted you to be aware of. One of the things the tournament is hoping for and is encouraging is certainly your professionalism and your assertiveness. And what do we mean by that? Well, professionalism can be anything from the way you dress, and we'll talk about that later, to the way you communicate with those around you, other referees, coaches, players, and so forth. Be courteous, be professional in all regards. Assertiveness, on the other hand, is how you conduct your game. You've got to be assertive with the players. You certainly have to be assertive with the coaches. However, you need to leave spectators alone. If you have a problem with a spectator, then you have to go to the coach and ask the coach to deal with it. It is the coach's responsibility to control their sidelines. If the coach or coaches won't do that, you give them a fair opportunity, and then you can abandon the match, walk away, and we'll back you, and the tournament will back you, and you don't have to worry about whatever it is. Just bring it to us, and we'll let the tournament deal with it administratively. This sort of follows up on that to hold coaches accountable to appropriate behavior. My suggestion is you review the USSF video on Ask, Tell, Dismiss, and there's a link to it on my website, or you can get it from the USSF YouTube page, and I don't have their link handy right now. You got to stop taking abuse from the coaches, particularly new and younger referees. And this is the way you handle it. We actually covered this in our last D3 meeting. And so if you weren't there, please come to those meetings, the tier 2 meetings is what I meant. Please come to those meetings in the future. But watch that Ask, Tell, Dismiss video to help you along with that. The nice thing is you're going to have full referee crews as long as we get them all filled out this week, and I think we probably will. So lean on your crew. Sometimes if you're a young referee, you may have an adult AR to help you out. But again, let's not be taking abuse from coaches. Tournament will back you. the Referee Association will certainly back you on it. So use the tournament as a learning tool, learn to get better, but also how to deal with troublesome coaches. If you have a problem, if something happens on or off the field, again, let a tournament staff member know, or you can always bring it to the referee tent or to the clubhouse. Again, the tournament would rather you not complain about things. If there's something you need, ask for it. They'll do everything they can to try to accommodate you. Make sense to everybody, I hope? We also need to do a better job of keeping the referee areas tidied. Every tournament, I spend a lot of time going through the referee tent, picking up water bottles, papers, whatever you guys are just throwing down. And you need to do a little bit better job of just keeping things picked up. Same thing on the touch line when you're actually reffing the games, or you put your gear down at the halfway line. And don't throw stuff on the ground. Put it in the trash can, pack it up, take it to where there is a trash can, and everybody will be happy. And Nicole wanted me to pass along her thanks for your time. She knows you spend a lot of time at tournaments, and to your dedication to the referee program. Okay, things that I want you to know. Probably should copy down my cell phone number. There always seem to be problems, and you need to get a hold of me. I'm going to be at the Taconic Fields, and Steve Schiffer is going to be at the Nova Clubhouse. So if you have a problem that relates to Taconic or an assignment at Taconic, you give me a call. You could also text message me. For Steve, here's his cell phone number. Same thing. If you have a problem there, give him a call, give him a text so that he can deal with it or know what to expect. Please, before you come out Friday or Saturday or whenever you first come out, print out your schedule. This is becoming a real problem, even during league games. This past Saturday, we had several referees not print their schedule, show up at the wrong field, the wrong game, which has a cascading effect because now some other referee doesn't know where they're supposed to go. They may be a little late running from their game they're playing in or whatnot, and it creates confusion and a bit of unfairness to the referee if you're on a game you're not supposed to be and another referee now doesn't get to do a game. The other thing it benefits is when you come to check in at the referee tent prior to your games, you need to be able to tell either me or Steve the field and time that you're checking in for. It moves the line a lot faster rather than me having to hunt through this great big chart that I have on the table of where you might be. So know your schedule, print it out, and make sure you're able to tell the assigner who you're checking in for, what you're checking in for. Print the rules. Everybody should have a copy of the rules with them. It is not satisfactory to come to the referee tent and ask to see a copy of the rules. That just shows me that you're unprepared. There's no reason you can't print out the rules, study the rules, so that you know exactly what is expected of you during the tournament. You can't make assumptions that you know all the rules because they're not the same. They differ from, say, D3. They differ from Rush Select. They differ from FC Nova Youth League. So it's up to you to make sure you have read them and that you have a copy of them with you in case there is a question on your game. You can pull them out and you can show the coach. No parking passes are required this time. They have been on some tournaments in the past. If you're a new referee, this probably doesn't make any sense to you anyway. The only thing I say is please park only in designated spots. If you park elsewhere, you may get ticketed, you may get towed. So make sure you're in a regular designated parking area. Please dress appropriately. That means your referee jersey is tucked in not only while you're reffing the game, but anytime you're walking around the facility and your referee jersey is visible. When you're not doing a game, you should actually have that covered up. Wear a warm-up or whatever, but always have that shirt tucked in. You know, make sure you're wearing your black shorts, your referee socks, etc. If you're watching a game, make sure you have your referee shirt covered up. You probably want to pull your socks down so everybody doesn't know you're sitting there as a referee. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. I really shouldn't have to belabor this issue. You are getting paid to be a referee. That makes you a professional. And with that comes professional dress. For those of you who aren't quite sure where you're going, of course, FC Novo Complex, most of you know, but we do have some out-of-town guests coming. And so it's on Lake Hazel Road between Eagle Road and Cloverdale Road. If you're coming off the interstate, it's easiest just to come straight down Eagle Road and make a left onto Lake Hazel. If you're coming from some of the other areas, it's easier to come down Cloverdale and make a right onto Lake Hazel. The clubhouse is the big red barn-like building right by the soccer fields there. Taconic is a sod farm, and it's at Eagle Road and Taconic Drive, and it's just north of Lake Hazel. So if you're coming south on Eagle Road, it'll be on your right-hand side, and of course, if you're coming north on Eagle Road, it'll be on your left. I haven't seen the field layouts yet. They're still sort of tweaking that, and I don't know what the parking situation is going to be precisely. We'll just have to wait and see. I expect that Nova will put up field maps on their website as we get closer to the end of the week. Check-in. This always seems to be a problem, and it's time that everybody really gets on board with this because it's very important in a tournament setting. It becomes even more important when you get to higher level tournaments like State Cup. It's 45 minutes before your first game of the day. So for all of you new or newer referees doing your first tournament for me, it's 45 minutes. That's not 40 minutes or 30 minutes. I expect you there 45 minutes before that first game of the day. One of the reasons we do that is we have to get through everybody that's there to get them checked in, make sure we don't have anybody missing. And you have to have enough time to do a thorough and complete pregame prior to the game. And sometimes that may mean if you're doing back-to-backs with virtually no time between games, you got to cover it for both games. So give yourself plenty of time to do it. Be there 45 minutes. I'm going to be there. Steve will be there bright and early. Hopefully we're set up and we can start taking check-ins by 7 each morning. So if you have that 8 o'clock game, get there early. Please, particularly for 8 o'clock games and around noontime, prepare for traffic issues. I've seen traffic get backed up for 2 miles on Eagle Road. So if you run into that situation, you might want to take the jog over to Cloverdale and skirt around it. But if you get there early enough, you won't have any traffic issues. Watch out for speeding on Eagle Road, on Lake Hazel, and be particularly cognizant of no parking zones. The Ada County Sheriff will be out in force. They will ticket you for speeding. It happens to referees every single tournament we have at Nova. It also happens that people get parking tickets, and on occasion, they get towed. So make sure you're in designated parking areas once again. Team rosters and player cards. You will be given a roster by each coach. It will have an approved stamp on it. In past years for Performance Cup, it was a red star. I can't guarantee it's a red star this time, but it will be something to indicate that this roster is approved. Okay? Make sure you're very careful about the players being on the roster that are sitting in your technical area. No guest players are allowed in this tournament. So nobody should be handwriting players' names on the roster and saying, oh yeah, they're a guest player. That's a league rule, not a tournament rule. If there is a handwritten name on the roster, it should be a rare event, but it could happen. It must be initialed by the tournament director, and that will probably be NF. So check for that. If there's a question, call it in. You don't need to get player cards at the time of check-in. Player cards have been checked against the roster during tournament check-in, and so you'll have just the roster to deal with. If you give a red card, just come in and report it. You don't have to pull the card. We'll deal with it administratively. Okay? It's always possible in this tournament. They have some U9 teams playing up in the U10 division, and they have some of their youth league U10 teams, and they don't always have numbers on the jerseys. Let them play. It's not a big issue, and you just have to let them go. Substitution rules always seem to trip up referees during tournaments because oftentimes, just like Performance Cup, they are different than what you're used to in your league matches. So let's just quickly go over them so that we're on the same page. But again, I refer you back to the rules for the competition, which you will have a copy of with you, right? And so if there's a question, you can always refer to it or refresh your mind during the tournament. It's unlimited substitutions with referee's permission, all age groups. Of course, they can sub after a goal, beginning of the second half. Overtime periods, not really an issue because we're not playing any overtimes. At a goal kick by either team, all right? Throw in by either team. Then there are some limited substitutions that can be made in case of stoppage for injury. Obviously you're going to allow them to sub off the injured player and bring on another player. If the player gets cautioned, allow the coach to sub that player off. He's probably heated situation. He's upset. Let him cool down. Let him get somebody else on. Let him enjoy the tournament. We're not looking to kick people out, where you've got a player that's out of control and mad and they're still playing. So go ahead and allow that. For any official restarts of play, that should be self-explanatory. And of course, under no circumstances on corner kicks, and at the very end of the game where you're going to go to FIFA kicks from the mark. Only the players on the field at the end of the game get to participate in kicks from the mark. Okay, the starred ones there, of course, are different from the regular D3 rules. So, a couple other things to remember, please. It's critical. I can't tell you how critical this is. It's absolutely critical that games start on time. I mentioned earlier that we are in very narrow time slots, and in some cases, it's going to be impossible. I understand that, and we're going to start to run late. We had some circuit breakers built into the schedule. Most of those are now gone. So if we start the morning games start late, the 6:30 games then Saturday afternoon are going to be going off at 8 o'clock, and it isn't going to work because we don't have lights. So critical, start the games on time. Remember, particularly for those younger age groups, teams do not have to warm up on the field. If you're running behind, Tell the coaches, hey, we're starting immediately. Get your teams out there on the field. The whistle's going to blow. No stoppage time in any game except for championships. I know sometimes we have serious injuries that can happen, and that's just tough. You know, we just don't have the luxury of having stoppage time and, running everything late during the rest of the day. The other thing that happens if games or fields get behind is it runs havoc with referee crews that have to move from field to field. So no stoppage time. ARs, if you're at a game and the center's running late, don't wait for the center to get there. Make sure you've checked the teams in yourself off the field. And if the center isn't there at game time, one of the ARs becomes the center and completes the game as the center referee. At the conclusion of the game, report back to the referee tent that the switch was made, and I'll make the changes accordingly. So somebody just has to step up and do it. Okay. Those of you who've been around a while, I think most of you know what's coming next. What's the biggest problem we have in tournaments? Okay, that's just a little funny way of going over the game card issue. We do use the blue game cards. You do not report scores in Arbiter. The blue game card is your game report, and you must turn it back in to me after the game. When we get to Sunday in particular and later games on Saturday, it's critical that the game cards come back in after every game because it matters who plays when or if they play the next day. So you may get field monitors coming by asking you for your cards. That's fine. You can give it to them. Otherwise, you can always send an AR back to the clubhouse or the ref tent to turn the game cards in. This is really important for the tournament itself so that it can function the way it needs to. Last I looked on the weather, it's supposed to be sunny. Mid-60s. So make sure you've got your sunscreen because you will burn out there if you're out there all day. Water bottles. Usually what we have big Gatorade, the 5-gallon Gatorade containers, but we don't have separate water bottles. So you need to bring your own. You can refill from the big jugs, but if you don't bring one, you're going to be in trouble. Food, we always have food in the referee tents. It varies a little bit, usually fruit and bagels, things like that. I don't know what else to expect. There will be food vendors at Nova. I don't know yet what's going to be at Taconic, but I suspect there's going to be food vendors there as well since that's the larger facility. And finally, as I wrap up every one of these tournament meetings, I encourage you to have fun at the tournament. Don't make this a life and death situation. Use it as a learning experience, and just get better. Have some fun. Get to know your fellow referees. Hang out in the referee tent or in the clubhouse. Make it a real enjoyable experience. We've got more tournaments coming up. Canyon Rim and Twin, and we have Directors Cup and State Cup that I will be assigning. And I will tell you right now, Directors Cup will open up for referee registration this coming Friday, I think. And if past experience is any indicator, we're probably going to need 140 to 150 referees for Directors Cup. So that's pretty much all I have. So far, I haven't seen any comments come in. But if you have them, go ahead and submit them. We'll cover them at the end of the broadcast. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Riley Jones.
Thank you, Al. Let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, and we will go into the presentation. Obviously, if you have any questions, just let me know, or let Al know, and we will get those answered for you. Today, I'll be covering the pregame conferences is critical to successful games. I want to just reiterate Al's point about 45 minutes early. You want to be 45 minutes early so you can be we can ensure that that a thorough pregame can occur. So the the things that should always be covered in a pregame, and I'll go through slide by slide on these. First, the pregame field inspection. Second, team mechanics, game administration, coverage of boundaries, coverage of infractions, coverage of misconduct, and then special rules of competition. So first of all, on pregame field inspection, first thing you want to check is the condition of the surface. If there are any holes or spots that could be potentially dangerous, manhole covers, sprinkler boxes, all these sorts of things. We want to ensure that we make the teams aware of those in the captain's meeting prior to the game, or to the coach, so they can be properly marked. Lining of the field. The most important thing here, at least in my opinion, is making sure that obviously the lines are able to be seen by at least the assistant referees, and hopefully the center referee as well. Hopefully they will have penalty spots marked for us. If they do not, then I would suggest going and walking it off prior to your game, so that and then trying to make some sort of mark yourself, so you're not having to walk that off during the game. Goals and nets. Obviously, the nets are going to be checked by the assistant referees prior to the game. But in order to start games on time, we're going to want to do a thorough pregame check-in of those nets first. And then the most important things with goals, obviously, is that they are securely anchored. Remember that if a goal is not securely anchored, you cannot play the game. So please, especially, the last thing we want is for us to get to those 2 or 3 30 games on Saturday and find out that a goal was not securely anchored, since that would mean that 4 or 5 referee crews prior to that referee crew had missed the fact that the goal was not securely anchored. That's a big safety issue. Corner flags, make sure that they are placed correctly for the game. Second, you want to get the game balls prior to the game and check them for any major marks or cuts, things like that, as well as that they are filled to the proper pressure, and that all the game balls are evenly pressured, so they are at the same level. And then finally, as we do at all of our games, we want to make sure that we cover the equipment, equipment for safety, including the cleats, that everyone's wearing shin guards, no jewelry, etc. And then as well as rosters and cards, which Al already covered in his portion of the presentation. Second, we're going to talk about team mechanics. We're going to talk about the referee diagonal. which, as you can see from the diagram here, the U.S. soccer instruction now is to, for the most part, stay in the box that you can see here on the screen, as not to get yourself into extreme positions such as out here or out here, which sometimes you'll need to do as a center referee, and cover the quote-unquote coffin corner. But for the most part, you want to cover how the diagonal is going to be run, as well as coverage, which we'll get here in a second. It's my understanding that there's a fair number of newer referees, so I thought I'd throw the assistant referee's zone of control. In general, it kind of fades from yellow to white on the screen. The yellow is considered to be the primary area of control. The primary area of control for an assistant referee. I just received a notification that the PowerPoint slides may not be showing. Do we know if they're showing as expected?
Riley, I've got the YouTube feed up on another screen, and it's showing just fine and it's clear.
Okay.
I just sent Eric a text saying that was the case, so there really isn't anything we can do about it anyway.
Okay, well, just continue then. Thanks.
Have you actually gone past the first slide?
I'm on to assistant referee's zone of control as well.
The slide that is showing is still in the first slide, the pregame conference slide.
Okay, just a second.
Yeah, I think you have to actually, when you're doing the space bar won't work, you have to actually click on your PowerPoint to go from slide to slide.
Are we up to the assistant referee's zone of control now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, perfect. If I skip again and don't move on, just let me know. Okay, as I was saying, the yellow area is the primary zone of control for an assistant referee, and then fading into the white area, which is a shared area between the assistant referee and the referee. And this is something that should be covered in the pregame conference, depending on both comfort of the center referee as well as fitness and their ability to get to certain areas of the field, and you as an assistant referee knowing when to expand your field of vision. Additionally, on team mechanics, we want to make sure to mirror flags. The ones that we want to be sure to be mirroring is offside when out of the vision of the referee. So this is the situation where AR1 has an offside decision, and the ball does not clear or otherwise cause a clearing of the offside, and the referee is facing AR2. AR2 wants to be sure to mirror that flag so that we can get play stopped. Second, AR2, when the referee is facing you for substitutions. This can be a huge help to the referee in making sure that a substitution is not missed. Also in the pregame conference, we're going to want to be sure to cover pregame entry, how we're going to enter as a crew, and then positions and signals for all stoppages. So this includes what the pregame, once the nets are checked and the unfurling of the flags, we want to cover that in the pregame. We also want to cover before the restart of a penalty kick, positioning for that, as well as after a goal is scored, ensuring that all officials are prepared for the next, or for the restart, the kickoff restart. Next, game administration. You want to be sure to cover timing. Who's going to time the game? This should be all referees should keep both time and the recording of goals and cards. So you're going to want to cover who's the primary backup. Recording of goals and cards. The direction from U.S. Soccer is trail, lead, and then center. What that means is that when a goal is scored, the trail referee or the AR whose side the goal was not scored on is going to record first. Then the AR whose side it was scored on will record next. And then finally, the center referee will record just prior to the restarting of play with a kickoff. The reason why we do that is to ensure that there are eyes on the players on the field. Since if we're all looking down and writing at the same time, we will run into a situation where we could have extracurriculars after the play, which are outside of the view of the referees, that would cause issues. I put on U.S. Soccer has at least 2 right. It's my personal opinion that all referees should keep the book, since all referees are responsible, including the ARs, for instances during the game, such as if a third caution was given to the same player, or incorrect score is reflective upon all officials, not just the center, if the incorrect score is turned in on the game card. So that should always occur. Finally, the administration of substitutes. This is the conversation between the center referee and the senior assistant, or AR1. You're going to cover what stoppages, which, as Al has mentioned, is outlined in the rules, which you should have memorized for the tournament, as well as handling of substitution when the referee is far away, or such as the AR1 in that situation would be expected to waive the or give permission for the substitutes to enter the field of play when the game gets hot. What I mean by that is when the temperature of the game rises, knowing to hold those substitutes as to slow the game down and to take some air out of the game. That you want to cover those sorts of situations where you may want to slow the game down. Additionally, you're going to do coverage of boundaries. Let me do that. Coverage of boundaries. First, you're going to want to talk about whose portion of the touch, whose responsibility is each portion of the touch line. The standard there is for the AR to take. Go ahead.
Slides aren't. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Coverage of touch lines, which the standard is for the AR to take their side and for the center referee to have the side of the field away from the assistant. Although you want to cover that in the pregame, as you do not want a situation where you have the AR pointing one way and the center pointing the other, as you lose credibility. Additionally, goal line, coverage of corners versus goal kicks. And the standard there is for the AR to take the half of the goal line nearer to them, and for the center to take the other. Once again, the most important thing here is eye contact, so that you can ensure that the decision's made together. The goal, when they say the good, the bad, and the ugly, this includes coverage of whether the quick ball in and out of the goal. And the mechanic you want to use for that, which U.S. Soccer has a standard mechanic, but you want to be sure to cover that in the pregame so that when it occurs in your game, which it occurred in my game last Saturday, that the crew looks good in making the right decision. A good decision presented badly does not always get accepted well. We want to be sure that we are covering that in the pregame so that we look professional and polished, as Al mentioned. Finally, missed flags on boundary decisions. You want to cover as a center referee what you want from your assistant referees if you have a quick ball in and out, or a play where a ball leaves the field of play and the flag goes up, but the center referee does not blow the ball dead. You want to be sure that you cover that the flag remains up until until the referee acknowledges you, which is one of the other reasons it's so important to mirror. Coverage of infractions. You want to be sure to cover whose responsibility is offside. Now that's 100% the AR's decision initially, but as we know with the new interpretations, it's now a both referee and assistant referee decision. So the coverage of what you're going to do if you have a deflection or a deliberate play, which this may be over some people, this may be over some of our referees on tonight's meeting's head, but you want to be sure to cover what you want for offside. Additionally, fouls.
Right, again.
It didn't do it again. Okay.
You might want to actually play the presentation. That might work better.
Okay, is that working now?
Well, I see the slide.
Okay. That's weird. I'm trying to use the click instead. So just keep telling me if it doesn't advance. My fault. Fouls in general, as well as fouls near the goal. You want to cover what you want from an assistant referee on those types of plays. What the expectation is for penalty kicks called by the referee, mechanics of a penalty kick once a penalty kick is called, as well as penalty kicks called by assistant referees as a result of something that may be out of the view of the center referee, what mechanics want to be used for that particular match for penalty kicks called by assistant referees, as well as missed flags on infractions. At what point you no longer, as the center referee, want that at what point you no longer want that flag, or the procedure by which you may wave a assistant referee down. You want to be sure to cover all of these things in the pregame so that when you get to end of the game, like I said, we look professional and together as a crew. Did that advance that time?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Coverage of misconduct. The biggest thing here is everyone's going to see the ugly tackle, including the center referee. The biggest thing here is coverage of misconduct outside of the view of the referee. If there's a play where something happens behind the referee's back, we as assistant referees, need to have the courage to get the attention of the center referee and have it taken care of, but also the mechanics by which you want assistant referees to give you those decisions should be covered in the pregame. Additionally, we covered substitutes already, substitution procedure, and how you want those handled, as well as crowd control and security. Al already covered the crowd control portion, which includes spectators. The one thing that I left off of here that Al already mentioned was coaches and ask, tell, and dismiss. Some things you may also include in your pregame include team tactics. If you've had the teams before and you know that they have one player in particular who needs to be watched or protected, that's a great thing to cover in the pregame. Playing styles, such as teams that like to play tactically and on the ground versus teams that like to play over the top, and the potential impacts that may have the referee crew. Characteristics of any individual players, which unfortunately most of the time we do not have the benefit of, but this is something else that U.S. Soccer includes as potential. Personality of the coach, that goes back to coach management, technical area management, as well as pregame ceremonies There's potential that if you're on a championship game, there may be an Olympic walkout or something of that nature, and you want to be sure that that's covered in the pregame so that we start off on the right foot, both figuratively and literally, and look as professional as possible. Also included here, which we can get these links out to you. I've included, this is the first one. First link is a video that Michael Kennedy, who works for U.S. Soccer, has created regarding the pregame conference. It covers much of what I've covered tonight, but it's a 3 or 4 minute video, and it's good. I think it's 4, it might be 6, but it's good and explains a lot of this. And then as well as the second link is not a U.S. Soccer link, but it gives several referees pregame, what they like to cover in their pregame. And one of the great things about being a referee is you get to create your own referee toolbox and pick the things from everyone else's games that you like the most, and then use those tools to your advantage. And so we can probably get each one of those links distributed if people are interested. Finally, this is outside of the instruction, but if you're interested in adult soccer, John Hickox asked me to include this, and I'm helping John this season as well. If you're interested in officiating adult soccer and are at least 16 years old, you can send an email to this link here. I'll field any questions that may have come up, Al.
Okay, so far I don't have anything for you, Riley. So we do have one general question that came in. This one actually came in from Eric Anderson. So you can ignore my name there. I had to put it back in. Is there still construction on Eagle Road out by the Nova Complex? I haven't been down there in a while, so if anybody who's been down there knows, if they want to shoot me a quick answer, I will share it with everybody. And if there is construction, I'll let everybody know by email sometime this week, because I don't know the answer. The other thing, the last thing I have, and we're going to wrap this up in less than an hour, is this video, this broadcast will be available on YouTube for the rest of the week. You'll just the same links that you already have as far as the address. So if you need to review it, you can go do so at YouTube and scroll through it to just the area that you're most interested in, and also share it with all of the referees who didn't come tonight. It looks like we had about 62 people watching it live, which is a little disappointing since there are about 140 of you signed up to ref. So we got to make sure everybody else has a chance to view it this week, and that'll be on YouTube. So let's see. Anything else here? Eric asked about concussion protocol. All I can say is read the rules. I don't have any other information than what's in the rules, and if they're silent, take it up with the tournament director. So anything else, Riley?
I was just going to one editorial comment, which is you mentioned pushing your socks down and being out of uniform while you're at the tournament. From my perspective, I would take it even one step further in that I think you should change out of your socks and completely out of your jersey in between games. You're basically a walking target. That's just my experience from the years I've been doing it, and I find that you only get yourself in trouble. Enough people know you're a referee anyway.
Okay, very good. I did get one quick text response, says there is no construction down in that area right now, so we should be good to go on that. Just checking here to make sure we don't have anything else. Nope, I think that's it. So thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. If you do have other questions, please email me or text me. And please continue to check Arbiter all week and pay close attention to email, as I will keep you advised of the changes as they happen. And hopefully we get to cover as many of these 440 games this weekend that we have, and try to keep everybody happy. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Good night.
Thanks.